For today's session, we're going to have laws of exponent. Okay, so for our session, we're going to discuss about the laws of exponent. Okay, so very significant ang topic na ito, lalo na sa multiplication of polynomials and division of polynomials. Okay, malaki ang very significant ang topic na ito sa mga ganong topics kasi without the strong knowledge or firm knowledge of this topic, it will be very difficult for us to multiply polynomials and at the same time to divide polynomials as well. Okay, so let's start with our first rule, that is the product of powers. In some books, they call this one as the product rule of exponents. Okay, so there is a formula or rule to follow once we are dealing with a product of powers or the product rule in the laws of exponents. So ito po yun. We have here a raised to m times a raised to n, that is equal to a raised to m plus n. Ang tatandaan lamang po dito, if we are multiplying two particular expressions with the same base, importante na same base, we will just copy the base and we will add their exponents. I will repeat. So if we are multiplying two expressions with the same base, so we will just copy their base and then we will add their exponents. So m plus n. Yung m tsaka n dito, yan po ay mga exponents. Okay? So let's have an illustration or an example. So for number 1, you have x raised to 2 times x raised to 3. So if you are trying to check number 1, they have the same base, which is x. So mangyayari dito, applying this rule, we will have x raised to 2 plus 3. We just copy the base, x, and then we add the exponent. As a result, their product will be x raised to 5. So x raised to 2 multiplied to x raised to 3, that is equal to x raised to 5. Let's do have the second example. We have here quantity 2x cubed multiplied to 3x raised to the 4th power. So applying the rule, so we just simply multiply 2 and 3. Kasi multiplication naman. 2 times 3, you have 6. And then x raised to 3 times x raised to 4, application ulit ng product rule or yung product of powers. So we just simply copy their base, yung x, and then we add their exponents. So 3 plus 4. Simplifying this further, you have 6x raised to 7 as the product of 2x cubed multiplied to 3x raised to the 4th power. So that is the first rule of exponent, which is the product of powers. Okay, let's do have the second rule, and that is the quotient of powers. Or in some books, they call this one as the quotient rule in the laws of exponents. So ito po yung illustration niyan. So a raised to m divided by a raised to n. So kagaya po nung ating product rule, importante na same base sila. But this time, we are asked to divide. That's why we call it as quotient. In this case, there are three particular cases na kailangan ho nating i-reconcile or kailangan ho nating maintindihan or ma-comprehend as we deal with quotient rule in the laws of exponent or the quotient of powers. May mga tatlong bagay tayong kailangan tandaan. So una, if your m, yung m tsaka n dito are the exponents. Exponent for the numerator and exponent for the denominator. So if your m here is greater than n, that's the first case. If m is equal to n, and m is less than n. So, tatlong bagay yung kailangan natin tandaan. In this case, if your m is greater than n, mas mataas yung exponent o yung power ni numerator kaysa kay denominator, ang gagawin po natin dyan, we have a raised to m minus n. Ito po yung prosesong susundin ho natin if yung example ay magpo-fall sa case na ito. If the exponent of the numerator, the expression in the numerator is greater than with the exponent ng expression na nasa denominator. Now, if your m is equal to n, ibig sabihin, same ng value yung exponents nung numerator tsaka denominator. Okay? Kasi take note ha, kailangan same base sila. If that is the case, ang sagot natin ay laging 1. Okay? Obvious naman yun, makikita nyo mamaya sa ating example. While if your m is less than n, ibig sabihin, mas mataas yung value nung exponent nung nasa denominator kesa sa numerator, ang magiging resulta or prosesong gagawin natin dyan is you have 1 over a raised to n minus m. So yan po yung tatlong bagay na kailangan natin tatandaan once we talk about the quotient of powers or the quotient rule in the laws of exponents. Let's do have the illustrative examples. Let us have the number 1. So x raised to 7 all over x raised to 4. If you will try to check, they have the same base. Okay? Parehas na x. Now, if you will try to check or to compare the exponents of the numerator and then the denominator, mas malaki po ang exponent ng numerator kaysa kay denominator. So, magpo-fall po siya dito. Okay? Sa ating unang case, ito, m is greater than n. So, how are we going to simplify this? So, we have here x raised to 7 minus 4. We just copy the base, their same base, ayan. Il-apply lang natin to, and then we get the difference of their exponent. As a result, you have x raised to 3 as their quotient. So, okay? So, ito po ay nag-fall dun sa ating unang case. Kasi mas malaki the exponent of the numerator, the expression in the numerator is bigger than the exponent of the expression in the denominator. In that case, we just copy the base and we get the difference of the exponent, and we have this as the quotient. So that is our first example. Let's do have example number 2. X raised to 4 over x raised to 4. Same base, same din ang exponent. Kung titignan po ninyo, yan po ay magpo-fall sa ating second case, yung m is equal to n. In that case, ang sagot po natin dyan ay 1. Actually, very obvious po ang sagot dito na 1 talaga. Kahit without the knowledge of this m is equal to n na case sa laws of exponent. Bakit po? It is because any term or expression divided by itself, that is equal to 1. Okay? Yun po ang sagot po natin doon. Okay? Let us have number 3. So, x raised to 4 over x raised to 7. Okay? If you will try to check, same base sila. And if you will try to check, the exponent in the denominator is much bigger dun sa exponent ng expression na nasa numerator natin. Ulitin ko yon. Yung number 3 po natin, same base sila. Ayan. And if you will try to compare the exponent ng ating mga expressions sa involved sa number 3, yung exponent po ng ating denominator ay mas malaki kaysa dun sa exponent ng expression na nasa numerator. In that case, dito po siya magpo-fall sa case na ito, wherein m is less than n. So, how are we going to do that? Applying this one, you will have 1 over x raised to 7 minus 4. That is equal now to 1 over x raised to the third power. So, yan po yung ating second rule of exponent. Okay, let's do have the third rule, and that is the power of a power or the power rule in the laws of exponents. So, ano yung illustration nun? Ito po. So, quantity a raised to m, quantity raised to n is equal to a raised to m times n. So, kaya siya tinawag na power of a power. Sa loob ng grouping symbol, may expression raised to a given power. Sa labas, raised to another exponent. So, kaya power of a power. So, pagka ganyan po ang scenario, pagka power of a power, we just simply copy the base and then we multiply their corresponding exponents. Kapag exponent, quantity naka-raise sa isa pang exponent. Okay? So, papaano po yung illustration na ma-encounter ho natin dito as we deal with power of a power? So, we have here x raised to 2, quantity raised to 3. Pagka ganyan po ang scenario, applying the rule, we have here x raised to 2 times 3. Napansin po ninyo, minultiply yung 2 tsaka ni 3. Si 2 tsaka si 3. Ang confusing kasi dito is lagi itong napagkakamalang si product rule. Hindi po natin siya i-add. Kasi sa product rule, kung babalikan po ninyo, dalawang particular expression, minumultiply, yung illustration natin, minumultiply natin sila, and then we add their exponent. Okay, we add their exponent. We just copy the base and then we add their exponent. Dito iba. Sa loob ay may expression raised to a given power. Sa labas ay may another exponent. Kaya siya power of a power. So, ang gagawin po natin doon, we copy the base and we multiply their exponents. Okay? exponent sa loob multiply doon sa exponent sa labas. So we have x raised to 2 times 3. Simplifying this further, our answer is x raised to 6. That is number 1. Let's have another example. We have we have 4x raised to the third power, quantity raised to the second power. So, paano po ang gagawin natin dito? Ibig sabihin yan, ang isa pang interpretation ng power of a power, lahat ng expression na nasa loob ng grouping symbol ay under nung exponent. Ibig sabihin, maaapektuhan sila ng exponent na nasa labas. Yun po ibig sabihin ng power of a power. Let's try to illustrate. Paano pagka ganito ang senaryo? 4x cubed quantity raised to the second power, pagka ganyan po, we just simply distribute 2 to 4. So 4 raised to the second power na siya. And then x cubed magiging x raised to 3 times 2. Yan. Ito po ay application mismo nung ating similar nung nangyari kay number 1. Okay, na binultiply natin yung exponent ni 3 with yung exponent na 3 with 2. Okay? So 2 dinistribute dito sa 4 raised to the second power na siya. And then x cubed dinistribute natin yung 2 dito, so you have x raised to 3 times 2. Simplifying this further, you have 16x raised to the 6th power because 4 square or 4 raised to the second power is 4 times 4. Okay? Kaya siya 16x raised to the 6th power. So that is our third rule of exponent. Okay, let's have now the power of a product. Okay, so paano ba natin ini-illustrate yung power of a product rule in the laws of exponents? So we have here the quantity AB raised to M. So pagka ganyan po ang scenario, we will just simply distribute. Parang extension lang siya nung nauna nating rule, yung power of a power. Dito naman sa power of a product, may more than one expression na involved dun sa ating grouping symbol. We just simply distribute the exponent sa kanila, dun sa mga expressions na nasa loob ng ating grouping symbol. So, let's have an illustrative example. So, number 1, we have here 2x quantity raised to the 4th power. So, how are we going to solve this one? So, pagka ganyan po ang scenario, we have here 2 raised to the 4th power, x raised to the 4th power. So, we just simply follow this pattern. So, may expressions na involved dun sa ating grouping symbol, 2x. Actually, dalawa yan. Yung 2 tsaka yung x. Ano lang, distribute lang natin yung exponent sa loob nila. So, we have 2 raised to the 4th power and then x raised to the 4th power. Simplifying this further, you have 16x raised to the 4th power. Because 2 raised to the 4th power, it means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that is 16. Therefore, our answer for number 1 is 16x to the 4th power. Let's have number 2. So, 2a squared, b raised to the 4th power, c raised to the 7th power, quantity raised to the 4th power. So, medyo complex siya as compared dun sa ating first example. So, how are we going to solve this one? So, kagaya lang din yung ginawa natin sa number 1. So, we will have here 2 raised to the 4th power. Ayan, distribute lang natin. And then 4. So, a squared, naging a raised to 2 times 4. So, ito ay application na po ng power of a power. Okay, ginamit natin siya dito in order to simplify number 2. And then, b raised to 4 times 4. So, dinistribute si 4 sa loob dito sa b raised to the 4th power, you have b raised to 4 times 4. Okay? Minultiply lang natin. Power rule to, power of a power. And then, c raised to the 7th power, quantity raised to the 4th power, magiging c raised to the 7 times 4. Okay? Dinistribute lang yung 4 dun sa mga expressions na nasa loob ng grouping symbol. So, naging 2 raised to the 4th power, naging a raised to 2 times 4, naging b raised to 4 times 4, naging c raised to 7 times 4. Simplifying this further, that is 16, a raised to the 8th power, b raised to the 16th power, c raised to the 28th power. So that is the power of a product rule in the laws of exponent. Okay, let's have the last rule, and that is the power of a quotient. So papaano ba natin siya ini-illustrate? Ito po 'yon. So A over B, quantity raised to M, that is equal to A raised to M over B raised to M. Okay, so distribute lang yung exponent sa loob ng expression na ating dinedivide. Most of the time, naka-fractional form. Fractional form naman talaga kasi quotient ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. So, paano natin siya i-illustrate kapag nilagay natin sa example? So, let's have number 1. So, 2x over 3y raised to the third power quantity raised to the fifth power. So, how are we going to simplify this? So, applying our pattern or rule in the power of a quotient, that is equal to 2 to the fifth power. I-distribute lang dito. Ayan. And then x to the fifth power. Ayan. Over 3 to the fifth power. Ayan. And then y raised to 3 times 5. So, napansin po ninyo, pumasok na po dito yung dalawang rules na pinag-usapan natin kanina. Yung power of a power, tsaka power of a product. So, minsan madalas nangyayari yon na more than one rule yung involved sa isang example. Okay? So, simplifying this further, that is 32x to the fifth power because 2 to the fifth is equal to 32. We just simply multiply 2 5 times. And then, over 243. Yung 243 ay simplified form ni 3 to the fifth power. And then y raised to the 15th power. That is 3 times 5 kaya naging y to the 15th power. So therefore, the fifth power of 2x over 3y to the third power, that is equal to 32x to the fifth all over 243y to the 15th power. That is number 1. Let's do have our example number 2. So, quantity, we have here negative 2x cubed over 3 quantity raised to the fourth power. So, same lang ang ginawa natin sa number 1. Okay? So, you will have here the fourth power of negative 2. Ayan. X raised to 3 times 4. Yan, distribute lang natin dito. Over 3 to the fourth power. So, simplifying this further, you have 16x to the 12 over 81. So, we just simply multiply si negative 2 ng 4 na beses. So, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, that's 16. And then, x raised to the 3 times to x to the third power, dahil nga naka-raised to 4 siya outside, so, nag-multiply yung 3 tsaka 4. So, x to the 12th power siya over 81. So, therefore, the fourth power of negative 2x cubed over 3, that is equal to 16x to the 12th over 81. So, yun po yung laws of exponents. Naway sa maikling oras na tayo ay nag-usap, marami kayong natutuhan at nakuha. I am Mr. Jonathan Piroman, a Mathematics 8 teacher from Ilaya Barangka Integrated School.